A stunning scene at the heart of American democracy. The U.S. Capitol overrun, under siege. Pro-Trump extremists storming inside, flooding the halls, breaching the floor of the House of Representatives and the Senate.
Chaos, violence, lawmakers under lockdown.
Protesters are in the building.
Thank you.
Inspired by false claims like this.
This year, they rigged an election. They rigged it like they've never rigged an election before.
The certification of his defeat interrupted. The United States, Canada, countries around the world left stunned.
Our democracy is under unprecedented assault.
Tonight, the Capitol may be secure, danger seemingly giving way to defiance, but the questions remain. How could this happen? What now for a country in spasms?
We will not let them silence your voices. We're not going to let it happen.
This is a special edition of The National. And this is the U.S. Capitol tonight, a symbol of American democracy, supposedly a symbol of the strength of that democracy. Well, tonight, the work continues inside, but today, the building, the people within it, came under attack from Americans themselves. What unfolded today tells a story about dangerous political extremism.
Supporters of Donald Trump stormed the U.S. Capitol as the Electoral College votes from the presidential election, which Joe Biden won, were being tabulated and confirmed. And make no mistake, this is usually a pretty uneventful proceeding, but today was a day of violence.
So a lot of people have used a lot of different words to describe these scenes. Sedition, a coup, an assault on something sacred, not just on the building, but democracy itself. And all this at the end of Donald Trump's presidency, which does end 2 weeks today.
Our reporters are covering all of these extraordinary developments in Washington tonight. Katie Simpson, Susan Ormiston, and Paul Hunter. Not just keeping an eye on what unfolds, but also on what it means for what happens next.
So we will take you through every twist and turn tonight. Katie, let's begin with you. You were in that crowd when things started to turn. Can you walk us through the moment?
Adrian, things started to fall apart fairly quickly. Tens of thousands of the president's supporters came to Washington at his request for a protest that turned into a riot.
Our Capitol! Our Capitol!
Unnerving and remarkable scenes of chaos on the doorstep of the home of American democracy. Angry supporters of the president advancing on the Capitol.
USA! USA!
Tensions escalating quickly.
Security had closed off this area of the Capitol, but after those protesters pushed their way through a gate, they made their way up here to the steps and even climbed some of the bleachers set up for inauguration, prompting a heavy response from police.
Officers tried to push back, firing pepper bullets into the agitated crowd. Trump supporters only grew bolder, and police lost control. They forced their way into the building. Outnumbering the officers inside, they seized this sacred space, leading to unimaginable scenes and violence. One woman was shot and killed, and several police officers were hurt. It took the president more than 2 hours to tweet his first call for calm. Considered a slow response since these people listened to him and genuinely believe his false claims the election was stolen.
We want Trump! We want Trump!
I'm distressed. We shouldn't be here at having this kind of discussion in this country.
We are coming!
A claim he knows infuriates his base, a claim he repeated at a rally this morning.
We will never give up. We will never concede.
This will be remembered as a brutal day for American democracy, making the transition of power all the more difficult for the incoming president.
So, Katie, that was today. Can you give us a sense of what it's like where you are tonight? It's quite late.
Things have calmed down quite significantly, Adrian. Let's show you. There's just a few members of the National Guard that we can see standing between us and Capitol Hill, which is actually somewhat surprising given the violence and given what happened here on these grounds today. One other thing I should mention, the mayor of Washington, D.C. just held a news conference, and she announced there'll be an emergency order here in the city until January 21st, the day after inauguration. Given what happened with this protest and given the scene that unfolded, they don't want a repeat of that. So essentially, this order will give them more access to resources for policing.
All right, Katie Simpson in Washington tonight.
Now, all that happened while something very important to the democratic process was going on inside the Capitol building. The Electoral College votes from the presidential election were being tabulated. Sealed certificates from each state are kept in these ceremonial boxes. When people fled the Senate floor, quick-thinking staff grabbed them and kept them safe. Now let's head next to Susan Ormiston. Susan, an extraordinary day for Americans no matter where they were, but a scary one for those who were inside that building when it was stormed.
Yeah, Andrew, many Americans are reeling tonight watching those images, saying they can't believe this is their country. But the seeds for this were sown over a month ago by a president who won't give up.
A stunning image defending the inner sanctum of the U.S. Capitol with guns drawn, intruders at the window. Lawmakers ducking for safety. Just after 2 o'clock, their chamber surrounded by an angry mob.
We're being instructed to each of us get a gas mask that are under our seats.
The most brazen of those protesters savoring the moments. In the chair on the House floor. Inside Nancy Pelosi's office. One leaving a note, "We will not back down." This day was meant to formally certify election results, a routine protocol, with Majority Leader Mitch McConnell urging lawmakers to move ahead.
The voters, the courts, and the states have all spoken. They've all spoken. If we overrule them, it would damage our republic forever.
Instead, the certification vote was aborted by violence and protest in the name of Trump, and under his urging that the election was stolen. Biden stopped just shy of saying Trump incited it.
It's chaos. It borders on sedition. And it must end now.
He called on Trump to step up, which he did, with admiration for the protesters.
We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel. But go home and go home in peace.
But damage done. D.C. is under curfew. Police are bracing for more riots overnight.
Today's events did not happen spontaneously. The president who promoted conspiracy theories that motivated these thugs, the president who exhorted them to come to our nation's capital, egged them on.
Legislators did go back to work tonight to try to finish what they started, to officially make Joe Biden president.
Among the many questions tonight is why those protesters were able to overrun police on Capitol Hill, why the security wasn't more robust, and how this actually all happened. It's not as if the march was a surprise, nor its motivation unclear. And the resistance that we see today in Washington is not going to fade away. I mean, many will be unfazed, thinking that this is just desserts for the stolen election that President Trump keeps promoting. It's only 2 weeks till the inauguration. The Capitol here in D.C. will be very tense. In fact, tonight the FBI discovered and dismantled 2 homemade explosives placed near both the Democratic and Republican national headquarters.
So, Susan, what have we heard from, more recently from the president?
Well, not that recently at all. His last tweet was about 6 o'clock. saying that the supporters need to remember this day forever. He called the election fraudulent again, and then Twitter blocked him out of his own account for the next 12 hours and Instagram for 24 hours and warned that the suspension may be more permanent.
Susan Ormiston, thank you very much.
Now, today's events are still kind of hard to process. It can feel like a terrible corner has been turned, but has anything actually changed in U.S. politics? Let's turn to Paul Hunter for some much-needed analysis here. Paul, 10 years in D.C., and still, I know you've never seen anything like this.
Nor did I think I ever would, Adrian. It's kind of unreal. It was an ugly, soberingly sad day in this country, and it underlines what we've been talking about throughout Donald Trump's entire time in office. That this country is maybe irrevocably divided, violently so. This is the U.S. Capitol building. They're busting into Nancy Pelosi's office. Police are being chased. Guns are drawn. And it is anger fueled by a president who refuses to concede defeat in the face of court after court turning back his challenges. Donald Trump has created a mass of supporters in this country who believe only what he says, who take action on his words, and effectively this is the result of that. It's incredible.
So, Paul, I know for quite some time you've been speaking with these rock-solid Trump supporters. Is it your sense that anything changed for them tonight?
Well, I mean, it depends what you mean by supporters in a sense. Regular voters, Trump Nation, worship Donald Trump. There is no signal that today changes any of that. The other supporters are Republican politicians, especially those eyeing a presidential run in 2024, who've long understood they need Trump's say-so to win the backing of all those loyal voters in Trump Nation. Has Trump gone too far now? Will they turn on him? And if he then calls them weak and cowardly, will they care or pay a price? That's the calculation they're making now. Is this the time to stand up to Trump or not? That said, tonight, there's talk some are now pushing for Trump's removal from the presidency, citing the 25th Amendment of the Constitution, that he's unfit for office. It's a complicated endeavor, Adrian, but it's stunning that it would even be discussed, and yet, here we are.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll leave it right there for now. Paul, we will talk again a little bit later when you take this deeper look at how those voters will continue to shape American politics.
Indeed.
Now, if today's chaos truly is a result of Donald Trump's inability to accept voting results, then Georgia has dealt him another blow. 2 runoff races for the U.S. Senate have been won by Democrats, effectively giving Joe Biden control of both chambers of Congress, along with the White House. Here's Stephen D'Souza on how Georgia changed the game.
They were the 2 final races to close out the 2020 election, and Reverend Raphael Warnock made history for the Democrats and the country, becoming the first black senator from Georgia.
What happened last night is stunning. We flipped a state, and it took a lot of hands to do that.
It took until late this afternoon for the other Democratic candidate, Jon Ossoff, to be declared the winner in his Senate race. The 2 wins ushering in a new political reality.
I will give everything I've got to ensuring that Georgia's interests are represented in the U.S. Senate.
Tomorrow is Election Day.
The 2 new senators will give Democrats a majority in the U.S. Senate. Coupled with their majority in the House and control of the White House, it gives President-elect Joe Biden a clear path to alter the country's course.
And it feels like a brand new day.
Soon-to-be Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer promised Democrats will bring bold change, starting with pandemic relief.
One of the first things that I want to do when our new senators are seated is deliver the $2,000 checks to the American families.
President Trump seemingly accepted defeat while claiming yesterday's vote in Georgia was fixed.
Kelly Loeffler, David Perdue. They fought a good race. They never had a shot.
Many Republicans say Trump's repeated false claims about voter fraud hurt the party.
When you tell people your vote didn't count, this is all part of crazy town, and people are stealing things, you undermine people's confidence in the vote.
Observers note the Democrats' win wouldn't have been possible without the grassroots efforts of black supporters, especially black women.
We are going to be able to compel Republicans to actually have to talk about the issues and debate the issues as opposed to having a fait accompli for their ideas.
Which means a very different American political landscape than the last 4 years. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, Calgary.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke of today's assault on the Capitol with Vancouver radio station News 1130.
Obviously, we're concerned and we're following the situation minute by minute as it unfolds. There is an important electoral process unfolding in the United States, and I think we all want it and need it to unfold properly and peacefully. So we certainly hope things will calm down, but we're going to keep watching carefully.
When asked if he believes the peaceful transfer of power will still happen, Trudeau said America's democratic institutions are strong.
Now, we will have more on the dramatic situation in Washington, but now let's turn to the life and death matter facing this country, COVID, showing no signs of slowing down. And just like during the first wave, Central Canada posting the highest numbers. Ontario with 3,266 new cases today. That's close to the daily record set just 4 days ago. Quebec reported 2,641 new cases, also just below its record high set on Sunday. And that has prompted Quebec's premier to make some new moves. Jayla Bernstein takes us through what's happened and how that might affect Ontario, too.
I've come to the end of my rope.
Peter Hatzipetros has been a cab driver for 30 years, and he says the curfew could ruin him.
How do you stay alive if your customers, if you go from taking one customer every 2 to 3 hours to now taking one customer every 4, every 5?
Still, with rampant spread of the virus and hospitals bursting, the Quebec government says it had no choice but to impose the tough 4-week lockdown, including an overnight curfew.
Starting next Saturday, there'll be a curfew from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. during 4 weeks.
The premier wants the streets to be virtually empty at night, with fines up to $6,000 for those who don't comply. The only exceptions, traveling for work or for medical or humanitarian reasons.
We need to reduce the contagion right now, and I'm counting on you all.
The last time Quebec enforced a general curfew was during the Spanish flu pandemic. A century later, déjà vu. Experts say curfews do help.
In the very first wave, curfews were very effective in Italy and France.
He says the rules must be clear to prevent confusion over what is and what is not allowed, especially with so many Quebecers tempted to sneak in short visits with family.
We met them for a little 15 minutes of surprise because they really needed to see the grandkids. Bad idea. Got COVID from the grandkids.
He says they haven't even started to see cases from New Year's parties and holiday travel.
If at one point there's not enough beds, well, we'll need to choose who's going to get the bed. And that's going to be a serious issue.
Ontario is closely watching the rollout of the new rules here in Quebec. The two premiers are speaking tonight as Doug Ford contemplates the possibility of a curfew in his province. Jayla Bernstein, CBC News, Montreal.
We'll have more news of this day ahead, including continuing coverage of the chaos, the history, and the fear at play.
Pro-Donald Trump extremists storming the U.S. Capitol. Next, a congressman who fled to safety as the rioters broke their way in.
Plus,
Our democracy is under unprecedented assault.
the questions the world is asking. How could this happen in the heart of American democracy?
And
the reality is pretty dark, which is that Trump is going to cast a long shadow over this party, at least for the next 4 years.
Fanning the flames. How long does Trump's influence outlast his presidency? We're back with this special edition of The National in 2 minutes. This is the U.S. Capitol building tonight. The National Guard was called in to secure the building earlier today following the chaos of this afternoon. A frightening moment as pro-Trump rioters push back a lone security guard inside the U.S. Capitol. Lawmakers who were preparing to formally certify the results of the 2020 election were rushed to safety as the mob made its way through the building this afternoon.
All right, joining me now is Representative Seth Moulton, a Democratic congressman from Massachusetts. Prior to that, an officer in the Marine Corps. I know you served in Iraq, sir. Thank you for joining us. Can you walk us through where you were when everything started today and what happened to you?
I was in my office here getting ready to vote, and we were asked to stay in our offices, most of us because of COVID restrictions, and then go to the House floor to vote on certifying the Electoral College result. But of course, that never happened because everyone on the House floor and those of us in our offices were rounded up by the Capitol Police. We've got a strong rap at the door and shouts, "Police, police," and they whisked us down the hallway and to a secure location in the Capitol complex where almost everyone in the House of Representatives, Democrats and Republicans, were all gathered to keep us safe because, frankly, they did not have enough Capitol Police to keep us safe in our offices or elsewhere in the Capitol. The whole Capitol complex was not secure.
So as you're all in that secure location together, you Democrats and Republicans, I'm so curious, what were the conversations like with your colleagues across the aisle in that moment?
Well, I pulled aside one colleague who's a fellow veteran and planned to vote against the will of the American people to certify this result. And I implored him again for the second time in 2 days to do the right thing for our country. He had told me yesterday that he thought that this would strengthen our democracy to have this debate. Well, I asked him today, how can he possibly see what he is doing, what his colleagues and himself who question this result in the United States Congress are inciting and inspiring amongst the terrorists outside, how that strengthens our democracy. I also saw a small group of Republicans, of course, the most conservative Trump allies, proudly refusing to wear masks even in this incredibly crowded room. We were brought there for our safety by the Capitol Police, but these colleagues were imperiling our safety by refusing to wear their masks. I took out my phone to snap a picture of them, and suddenly one of them, this new freshman from Illinois, verbally assaulted me, got right in my face. It's interesting that she was suddenly afraid of being outed for her hypocrisy. But the point is that it was a tense situation, but the Capitol Police had to have us there for our safety in this, as a mob assaulted the Capitol.
One last thought for you, Congressman. I'm just curious, for better or for worse, does today change anything?
It should. It needs to. My Republican colleagues need to come to their senses and realize that the violence outside the Capitol was inspired and supported by their lawless actions inside the House chamber, by challenging the fundamental principle of a democracy, which is that you, the American people, choose your leaders, and that we're just here to certify your votes.
Okay. Representative Moulton, thank you very much. We're glad you're okay.
Thank you.
And we'll have much more coverage, including a look at how we got here.
Tear it down! Tear it down! USA! USA! USA!
What led to today's events? How did it all unfold? That is coming up next.
All individuals must leave the U.S. Capitol grounds or be subject to arrest.
The warning from police in Washington tonight, just moments after the mayor's 6 o'clock curfew took effect. The Capitol building is now secure, hours after pro-Trump rioters stormed it. Tonight, D.C. police say 4 people died in that attack. 1 who was shot, the other 3 died from medical emergencies. David Common takes us through a timeline of what brought us to today's extraordinary events.
As much as Trump may deny it now, the near inevitability of all this was sown by the president starting 6 weeks ago today.
The biggest problem we have is if they cheat with the ballots. That's my biggest problem.
Down in the polls before the election, Trump insisted to his faithful there was only one way he could lose.
Cheating can happen like you've never seen. This is their dream. You know why the Democrats don't want voter ID? Only one reason: bad purposes.
Trump has a near messianic appeal for millions of Americans. They believed him, parroted his words.
We cannot allow these crooks, because that's what they are, to steal an election from the American people.
Never mind the lack of evidence. Post-election, they stormed ballot counts.
We need a recount. USA!
There was confrontation. This guy wearing the buffalo hat and horns, we met him in Arizona, where he insisted the vote was being stolen. Take a look where he appeared today, standing inside the U.S. Senate chamber.
They're stealing our election.
When count challenges failed, Trump turned to the courts. When the courts rejected his appeals, he turned to influence and interference.
All I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have.
To his supporters, a social media bombardment. New Year's Day, promoting the rally Stop the Steal. A supporter tweeted, "The cavalry is coming." He responds, "A great honor." Somewhat fittingly, even retweeting user Machiavelli, "Refused to concede a fraudulent election." And a command, overnight, get smart, Republicans, fight. They would, gathering this morning early, waiting for their leader to speak at noon.
They rigged an election.
His bombast would continue for an hour, overlapping the congressional session that would have certified his defeat. The crowd then began a 2-kilometer march to the Capitol.
It's America, baby!
Once there, a relatively small police presence was simply no match.
Oh, there we go.
Either police opened the gates or the mob pushed through. Either way, it was only 30 minutes after Trump had finished speaking that things turned violent. Media equipment trashed. Soon after, the report of shots fired, a woman hit, later pronounced dead. Meanwhile, Trump was in his dining room watching it unfold on TV. While inside the Senate chamber, political leaders fled or took shelter as the mob breached the building. The Pentagon activated the entire D.C. National Guard, injured police being taken out the back doors of Congress. Only now, 90 minutes after the fences fell, does Trump tweet no violence. But it's too late. There is such division that some will call today a few bad apples, others a coup attempt.
USA!
The seat of government under attack, and at 6 p.m. citywide, now a curfew in effect. Time to reflect. Is this the violent death throes of Trump's reign, or a preview of what's to come? David Coleman, CBC News, Toronto.
So today's events are leading to a lot of questions about security on Capitol Hill. While there were extra police on duty for this morning's rally, they couldn't keep the mob out of the building. The CBC's Alex Pineda was caught in all of this. So Alex, walk us through that. What was that like?
Sure. And so the overwhelming feeling I had covering this thing was that you're watching one of the world's oldest democracy coming face to face with the potential of its own mortality. It was a surreal experience. And really what I saw were three concentric circles. You had the group that broke into the Capitol building. Then you had a group on the doorstep of the Capitol, essentially trying to egg on other members of the crowd. Then in the crowd, you had people just milling about, looking at their baby photos, talking. I saw people praying, crying, praying for President Trump's continued reign. I saw people crying, splayed out on the grass in very emotional and bizarre scenes. And those people were not doing anything violent or particularly controversial. They were far off. And one thing that I did hear from people in the crowd was that the police, really, the presence was not there. They were actually surprised. Some of them said that they were stunned by how easy it was to break into the United States Capitol.
Right, so there are going to be a lot of questions, certainly in the days to come. Any sense of why the presence wasn't stronger?
Well, that's a good question. There's some dispute as to whether there were not enough police or whether they just wanted to avoid using force that would look terrible. You don't want to end up with a Tiananmen Square type situation in the United States of America. So there's that debate. But I did see police presence ramp up later, and they did wind up clearing the premises and were berated by members of the crowd saying, "We thought you were on our side."
Well, not over yet. All right, the CBC's Alex Pineda in Washington. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Well, coming up, a look at the phenomenon that fueled the chaos of today.
USA! USA! USA!
And if we have to flip this whole government, so be it.
Our capital! Our capital!
Long after Donald Trump departs the White House, his most fervent supporters will remain. How will Trumpism impact America? That's next.
It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace.
Well, let's be clear. Those were more falsehoods from the president this afternoon as some supporters stormed the Capitol. Facebook and Twitter pulled that video down because of Trump's continued and false assertion that the election was stolen. His Twitter account also suspended for 12 hours. So Trump will have to surrender power, but the forces he set in motion will shape U.S. politics for years to come. Paul Hunter is back to share what he knows about that. So, Paul, what will he leave behind 2 weeks tomorrow?
Trump leaves a legacy of Trump himself. Trumpism, they call it. The style, the politics, the winning politics of a politician now feared by Democrats and many Republicans alike. At the end of what turned out to be election week, on the Saturday after Election Day, when Joe Biden was finally declared president-elect, the streets of Washington, D.C. erupted.
So good, so good, so good.
Goodbye, Donald Trump, they said. And though from the other side of the security fence, Trump pushed back, come Inauguration Day, indeed, he'll be gone. But what about the politics of Trump? Trumpism, they call it. Has it now changed the Republican Party? And by the way, what exactly is Trumpism?
There is a crassness to Trumpism, a desire that punishing elites, being cruel to others, be they immigrants, people with disabilities, giving the other their comeuppance is more important than any actual policy matter.
Tim Miller is a former Republican strategist who helped create the group Republican Voters Against Trump.
I'm a registered Republican voter.
I'm a lifelong Republican.
This is one of their ads.
I just can't vote for Trump.
I am not voting for Trump this year.
Regular Republicans urging other Republicans to vote Trump out.
I'm so tired of all the division.
The division and hatred he has purposely.
The argument was that Trump isn't a real Republican at all, and that he needed to be stopped by Republicans. And yes, in November, Trump did lose, but, says Miller, Trumpism lives.
The reality is pretty dark, which is that Trump is going to cast a long shadow over this party, at least for the next 4 years, potentially longer, and that the party will be infused with Trumpism at some level, and with him, playing a kingmaker role, if not being the candidate himself, in 4 years.
After all, some 75 million Americans did vote for Trump last year. So-called Trump Nation didn't win the day this time, but it's a powerful force. Tupelo, Mississippi, late 2019, outside one of those massive Trump rallies. Among the thousands waiting to get in, we caught up with Florida's Gene Huber.
This president is going to take care of me and my family and the country and the world.
Hello, Tupelo.
And he's far from alone in that view. In the crazed rock concert atmosphere of the rally itself, Trump was the star. Huber was front row center. One of 24 Trump rallies Huber attended.
And we know he tells us the truth. Anything he tells us, we believe him.
Huber tells us now that his devotion remains strong as ever. He and the rest, he says, now wait for Trump's cue on who to support next time.
Whatever our president would say to vote for, I would definitely be on his side, because that means that person is thinking like the president.
The lessons that Republican politicians learned is that Trump was able to give them access to this whole new base of voters. So they're going to try to figure out what they can take from Trump and how they can act like Trump in order to appeal to that audience.
In other words, for politicians now maybe thinking of 2024, the message is to be like Trump, or to at least seek his blessing. Still, say some, not so fast.
I don't think there's necessarily going to be a need to kiss the ring.
Orrin Cass, a former advisor to Mitt Romney, notes there's now a giant blemish on Trump's brand.
It's because he lost. And at the end of the day, parties appreciate what their prior leaders have done, but those who lose tend to have less standing.
Plus, think about it. No more press briefings. No more guaranteed 24/7 media coverage. And, says Cass, to those who think they can be Trump 2.0, it's not that simple.
I think, though, to the extent that the people that Trump tries to tap are people who try to behave Trump-like, I think they're going to be quite bad at it. And so when I think about post-Trumpism, it's not just what Trump did, but with a different political leader. It's learning the lessons of Donald Trump. It's recognizing some of the problems in America and with our public policy that he really called attention to. It's recognizing the kinds of politics that can appeal to a lot of voters.
We are going to win back the White House. We're going to win it back.
Indeed, in the end, maybe the real lesson in all of this is about America itself. Trump may be labeled ugly and divisive by countless, but he proved that Trumpism works. It made him president.
Appealing to those voters is going to be central to the Republican Party for a while. Republican-based voters wanted Trumpism. That's what they wanted. I think the Republican Party is still going to be in league with Donald Trump for as long as he's around.
And if you doubt that, consider again Gene Huber.
Mr. President, we love you. We're going to be walking side by side with you, and we will always have you back.
A powerful force in this country, still many millions strong.
So, Paul, interesting listening to Orrin Cass talk about future leaders learning the lessons of Trump. What does that lead to?
Well, many worry, Democrats and Republicans, that the next Donald Trump could be smarter. Think about it. If Trump had handled the COVID crisis better, he may well have been reelected. 4 more years of his style of politics and governing. Where would that leave America? The lessons of Trump are that populism works. You can get elected that way. And with that, all the powers of the office. You can also get reelected if you don't mess up, as Trump seemed to do with COVID. Trump 2.0, goes the thinking, won't make that mistake.
Okay, so that's the Republicans. But in terms of Joe Biden, how does he calm the chaos now?
Well, that's the question now, isn't it? Biden has based his whole brand on being a bridge builder. He didn't spend decades in the Senate for nothing, right? But can he? None of the feelings on display today on Capitol Hill are new. They are deeply held convictions from people who, until Trump, were not even really a part of the political process. That's one of the reasons they like Trump so much. He speaks to them somehow. Can Joe Biden win them over? How? And he's got that, and COVID, and a still spiraling economy, all landing on his plate at 12 noon, January 20th. Adrian.
All right, Paul, thank you for all of your work tonight.
Pleasure.
U.S. lawmakers were back in chambers tonight to continue the certification of Joe Biden's presidency hours after that dramatic day.
We were just told that there has been tear gas in the rotunda, and we're being instructed to each of us get gas masks that are under our seats.
And indeed, lawmakers scrambled to hide under desks, don those gas masks as U.S. protesters stormed the Capitol. We will get an update from Washington next.
Another shocking scene from outside the U.S. Capitol building today as Trump supporters unleashed their rage on the media. They piled news-gathering equipment left behind and threatened to light it on fire. This picture shows a cable tied and hung as a noose. Yes, this is shocking, but not surprising. It follows years of framing the media as enemies of the people and more aggressive taunts from the president today.
The media is the biggest problem we have as far as I'm concerned. Single biggest problem. The fake news and the big tech.
All right, well, let's go back to Katie Simpson, who is not far from the U.S. Capitol tonight. So Katie, what's happening where you are right now?
Adrian, since the last time we spoke, we've actually been able to get a little bit closer to the Capitol. The police line moved back. We'll show you. There are members of the National Guard, and a lot of their equipment is actually laid out on the ground here, and some buses have driven by, and some of the members of the National Guard actually got on those buses, and it looks like they're about to leave. So it's certainly a far more relaxed scene here now. There are a couple of protesters that are still sort of mingling about, but most everybody has been gone for quite some time. So it is certainly a much different scene than it was just a few hours ago here at the Capitol.
So, Katie, some people are comparing the police response to today with how Black Lives Matter protesters were treated last year. And one U.S. lawmaker said in a tweet, if this was a peaceful Black Lives Matter demonstration, they would have been met with rubber bullets, beanbags, and handcuffs. You covered, both situations, and I'm curious for some of your observations.
One thing that I really noticed today, Adrian, was the lack of visible security throughout this protest. There's about 30,000 people expected in the city. And before this event even happened, the mayor had put out a warning saying that there was concerns that people with guns may come here. We were in the crowd for several hours today. And when we were near the Trump rally, near the Trump speak, it was calm, it was peaceful. You didn't see any police officers there. But as we made our way here to the Capitol, there wasn't a lot of visible security. And I'll show you these were the barricades that were set up here. And you can see they're pretty easily moved away. And so there wasn't a line of police standing here to protect the building the same way we saw with the Black Lives Matter protest this summer. You'll remember, Adrian, and Canadians will remember, there was layer upon layer upon layer of military guard, police. It looked like the perimeter around the White House looked like a military compound. There were so many security officers there. So it was certainly a completely different scene today versus what we saw during some of the protests in the summer.
Okay, well, someone's going to have to answer some of those questions. Katie, thank you very much. Thank you for all your work, all your Washington colleagues today.
Thanks.
And we will be right back with the moment on a day filled with them. Moments of chaos, violence, and utter disbelief. Well, no question, the events of today on the U.S. Capitol scarred a nation. It was violent, volatile, and potentially hugely consequential. So let's end by looking back.
USA! USA! USA!
We were just told that there has been tear gas in the rotunda, and we're being instructed to each of us get a gas mask.
I'm a Washingtonian. I grew up here. I've spent my whole life here. I've never seen anything like this.
The behavior that we are witnessing is shameful, unpatriotic, and above all, it is unlawful.
We got a guy!
The scenes of chaos at the Capitol do not reflect a true America, do not represent who we are. Democracy is fragile. To preserve it requires people of goodwill, leaders with the courage to stand up, who are devoted not to the pursuit of power, but for the personal interest pursuits of their own selfish interest at any cost, but of the common good.
So no doubt, today was singular, but not in isolation, right? It's worth bearing in mind that for the next 2 weeks, for the next 14 days, Donald Trump is still president of the United States. That's not inexorably true. I mean, I'm not in the business of predicting the future, but today it is true.
It is, yes, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, 2021 is a bit aggressive as a start. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. There's still a lot of questions about today. There will be a lot of questions about the police. Yeah, I'm grateful that we heard from the congressman who experienced that. also very grateful for all the journalists who are out in the field being berated, hassled, pushed, shoved in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
We are better for your work. That is the National for January the 6th. Tonight.